Welcome back to Trust Your Eyes. We enter about a 4-week break between the trade period's end and the national draft, but there are still plenty of headlines and stories to go over. None bigger than the GWS scandal. 6 players were banned and 13 were sanctioned over a wacky Wednesday gone horribly wrong. First off, how did you assess the situation the Giants players were in? And secondly, were the penalties fair or excessive? Just to make it clear before I answer these questions, I'm not coming at this from a woke angle or an anti-woke angle. I'm not really that much of a political person, so I'm coming from the perspective of a football fan. Now, on the acts themselves, not my type of humour. I'm not really into dark humour. If you are, then maybe you found it funny, and I'm guessing a lot of the Giants players are maybe into that type of kind of darker humour, and maybe they got a kick out of it. So, again, the acts they were distasteful. Again, not a great look, not a great representation of the AFL or the Giants. But on the other side of things, it was a private room, and that makes me feel a little bit uneasy that the person that dobbed them in could go back and watch CCTV footage and then inform the AFL. So I don't feel too comfortable about that part of it. So that's kind of my overall thoughts. I'm a little bit split in the middle, but the privacy part is a little disturbing for me. The penalties themselves, again, it depends what side of the ledger you go on. Were they harsh? I think they were harsh, especially the fines for leadership. I think if you gave suspensions for the players who actually did the acts, then so be it. But the fines for Toby Green and Lachie Whitfield and things like Lachlan Keefe, I thought were a little bit strange. But I think the important part of this wacky Wednesday gone wrong is it's a warning to AFL players that you do have to be careful what you do in public. Again, whether you agree with the sanctions or not, it's a clear warning sign that anything you do that can get you in trouble, you might get caught out and end up getting a pretty severe penalty. Collingwood look likely to pick up Tim Membry as a delisted free agent, and Adam Tomlinson is also a possibility. Do you like what Collingwood is doing by targeting a couple veteran players to add to their list? I really like the Tim Membry addition. Now, I don't think he's been officially delisted yet, but it looks like it's going to happen. Kicked 30 goals last year in 19 games. Again, he was a shock laid out of the elimination final last year. He's had some mental health concerns, but it seems like he's overcome that. And I think at Collingwood he could fit in really well, and whether he plays, I'm not sure, because they have a pretty strong forward line when fully healthy, so he might have to be a backup at times. But if he does start, could I imagine him kicking 30, 35 goals in that forward line in the way they move the ball in the team? Absolutely. And Adam Tomlinson, I think he's a pretty valuable guy to pick up as well, because we know they've struggled ever since Nathan Murphy has departed. Darcy Moore got into a bit more form in the back end of last year, and Jeremy Howe was a bit of a swingman, so they have Charlie Dean and Billy Frampton there. And if you add Tomlinson, you at least have 3 guys to choose from, and the best of that 3 you think would get the job, and then if you have any injuries, you can cover. So I like it. Collingwood don't have great squad depth right now, and these 2 guys, if they get both of them, both add something, a lot of experience, and could come in and do a job, when they're needed. Both Western Australian teams have made significant additions to their football clubs. Shai Bolton joined Fremantle, while Liam Baker, Jack Graham and Andrew McQualter joined West Coast. Do you like what each did in the trade period and with West Coast hiring McQualter? We'll start off with Fremantle and them acquiring Shai Bolton. I really like the pickup. At his best in 2022, he kicked 43 goals, averaged 17.5 disposals per game, and he was actually pretty good this season. I know people said he lost interest, but he kicked 34 goals, which was 3 more than he kicked in 2023, and he still got the ball about 17 times per game. So I think we can expect similar numbers at Fremantle. I hope they play him a lot more at centre bounces as well to complement Sarong, Brayshaw and Young. That's a really dynamic midfield group, and when you throw in Darcy and Jackson, it's a lot of athleticism, a lot of power. They have a lot of different modes in that midfield to go in. So I really like the addition, and up forward we all know the flair he plays with. And West Coast, Jack Graham's a decent player, and I think Liam Baker is an above average player. He's a good AFL player. Both can play in the midfield, and Baker might be moved half forward or half back, but I think both will play majority in that midfield area and just give pretty good depth to an area of the field that West Coast has struggled in. especially with injuries and retirements. And then Andrew McQualter did a great job as an interim coach when he was at Richmond. He ran second to Adam Muse in going for the Richmond job. He's got the resume behind him, he's got the experience. Seems like a pretty nice guy, more of a relationship coach from the outside looking in. So it's probably better to make a judgment of him, within the first 6 to 12 weeks of 2025. Dan Houston shocked some by admitting his preference in the trade period was to join Carlton. We all know he has ended up at Collingwood, so are you surprised he went public with this admission? Well, not really, because I thought everyone knew that his preference was to go to Carlton, and that Carlton for the early part of the trade period and before that really wanted him. And the clear connection is Michael Voss. He was at Port Adelaide for a number of years under Ken Hinkley, and he would have worked with Houston. I'm not sure if Voss coached the defence. I have a feeling he might have coached the midfield, but those two obviously had some form of a connection, maybe even a friendship beforehand, so it wasn't a surprise for me. And Houston even admitted in the article at the end of the trade period he'd gotten his head around being a Collingwood player, and he was really excited about the prospect of playing in Collingwood. And I think both sides right now have a pretty good shot at getting to a grand final and trying to win a premiership. The AFLW has been under the spotlight a bit. From the fixture, play on field and broadcasting, it seems to have lost its way, and people in the industry are complaining from all angles. So how can the league evolve and get back to its first season boom? Now, I must admit I'm not a hardcore AFLW fan. I pretty much stopped watching it after the first and second season, and there's a few reasons why. I think they expanded too quickly. I think the talent pool wasn't as deep as it needed to be to get all 18 clubs in it, so I think that's one thing. Second of all, I've said this from the start, the ovals are too big. They need to cut it probably by 70-75%, just so the scoring goes up, because it was only a couple weeks ago that the Bulldogs didn't kick a goal in a game, so you can't be having that in your 6th, 7th and 8th season of a competition. Then the timing of the competition is strange to me still. I feel like everyone's winding down from football now. They're still looking at the draft and the trade period, but physically sitting there for an hour and a half or 2 hours watching a game, it can even get tiring, and you do need a bit of a break. So I feel like they should move it maybe in the middle of the AFL season, complement some of the AFL games, and try to make it a part of the AFL competition instead of a separate identity, which they're trying to do. I know participation is still high with young girls, and that's great, but at the end of the day, it does need to make a little bit of money and still be a great form of entertainment. And right now, to a large portion of AFL fans, it just isn't that right now. So it's at a bit of a crossroads. And again, I think a couple solutions could be to shorten the ground a little bit and start the season at the same time as the AFL one, and put some double headers in to complement the game and help it grow. The Western Bulldogs lost 2 veterans in Jack Macrae and Caleb Daniel. They were out of favour last year and will get more opportunity at their new clubs. How will you remember their time at Whitten Oval, and where do they rank in terms of modern Bulldog greats? Well, this is a bit more of a personal topic. As a Bulldog fan, these are 2 of my all-time favourite Bulldog players. First off, Jack Macrae was fantastic from his second season onwards, was enormous in finals, especially the 2 grand final years. Look at his numbers, they were through the roof, and those 3 All-Australian years, 2019, 2020 and 2021, his inside and outside work as a midfielder, like the combination was just one of the best I've ever seen. He could get the ball 40 times, get 10 plus clearances, but he hurt you. He had that funny little kicking style on his left foot, a few helicopter passes, but they got to their targets a lot of times, and he did a whole lot of damage to a lot of AFL teams. And then Caleb Daniel, one of the all-time great draft steals, in my opinion. He played so many roles, half forward, midfield, and really found his best position at half back. Won the best and fairest in 2020 and was also named All-Australian. One of the best short kicks I've ever seen, those darts. They wouldn't go high up in the air, they were just low, precise, right into the hands of his teammates. And he was fantastic in finals as well. The 2016 elimination final, the prelim. He was great in the 2021 grand final, even though the team got belted. So 2 of my all-time favourites, definitely top 10 as modern Bulldog greats. Maybe Macrae might even get in the top 5. And both really clutch finals performers, which I think is underrated. So I wish both of them luck at their new clubs, I do think Caleb will be a bit better at North Melbourne than Macrae will at St Kilda, but there'll be no booing from the Bulldogs faithful when they come up against them. To finish off, a Herald Sun interview was posted about their own chief football reporter and Mark Robinson about his time on AFL 360. How will you remember Robbo, and will you miss him on television? Now, I didn't get the chance to watch AFL 360 for its full 14-year run, so I mainly watched it from about 2020, 2021 onwards, and during that time Robbo was probably only there half the time. He had the heart attack, he had a couple serious stints in hospital, and this happened and that happened, but I always really liked Robbo. Now, he's not everyone's taste on television, but I did like how he was himself, and that's pretty hard to do on live TV. There's a lot of guys on Fox who fake the funk a little bit, and Robbo didn't. I like that he was raw. I really admired that he was passionate about the game. I didn't agree with everything he said, but that's okay, and I thought he was great entertainment as well, and worked really well with Jared Waitley, who could kind of calm him down, and the connection they had was really great, and it was funny and entertaining, which is really important. So I think he'll be on Fox Footy still. Maybe he'll be on the midweek tackle, but I don't think it'll be the last of Robbo on television, but it will be the last time we've seen him on AFL 360. Thanks for listening to an off-season edition of Trust Your Eyes. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back soon.